President Trump back in Washington after a history-making trip overseas at the G20 summit.
Appreciate the things that you have done relative to the very substantial problem that we all face in North Korea. A problem that something has to be done.
This president is not a president you want to test. It's a very, very bad idea to test Donald J. Trump.
President Trump pressed Putin on intelligence and allegations that Russia meddled in the U.S. election last year.
Anytime we can have our leader connect with a foreign leader and have a productive conversation, everyone wins. I don't know about you, but I'm not tired of winning yet.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio raced off to Hamburg, Germany to team up with the anarchists protesting the G20 summit and President Trump in particular.
That is so infuriating and so fundamentally totally wrong. It is an embarrassment to this country.
There's a large crowd here tonight right outside the precinct where Officer Mir Soktas Familia worked.
The hat of a Marine standing at attention blows off in the wind, and it's the president himself who retrieves it.
When you're in the company of President Trump, you realize that it's a special place to be.
Welcome to Club 1211.
This is a remix, but this is actually one of my favorite songs to get up in the morning to. Rather Be.
Are you serious?
Yeah, not this. This is the remix, which is fine. But the original song, if you're laying in bed and you have to get up for work,
It's too much
one of those
6
that
a.m.
just
for me.
Really?
Like, yeah, really.
You really like depressing
Club 1211. I don't want to be in the club at 6 a.m.
What?
No.
You wake up to depressing songs, though.
I do. I prefer to start my day depressed, and therefore my whole day gets better and improves.
He's the one American who still listens to Everclear.
I do. I love Everclear. I also like to point out the fact that there are only 2 mugs on this table, and Abby, for some reason, never gets a mug anymore. Like, you don't even rate a mug.
I know.
I don't know why.
Which I responded.
Maybe I deserve
Abby's
it.
getting a baby. Pete and I get mugs.
I should have 2 mugs for myself.
You should.
We've got Todd back on the couch this
Good to
morning,
be here.
who's wearing his
Pug socks. We probably should have
which are
told camera.
awesome.
I'm wearing socks that have pugs on them, so at
They're
some
very
point
cute.
we can take a shot of that if you want. If not, it's all good.
You know, it's always a competition on this show for who can have better socks than Pete.
What do we have today?
You might
Mine are
want
very
today.
simple. They're just
that Minnesota?
Just the state of Minnesota on some red socks. Yeah.
These are your favorites.
Yeah, they are. I wear them a lot. They're not even, arguably not even clean.
But, of course, this comes, the G20 summit has
Yes.
come to an end. President Trump and his team are now back at home at the White House. And, look, he is touting success. He says this trip was a win for America. This was a win for us.
Very much so. So he sent a tweet yesterday saying exactly what you just said, Abby. The G20 summit was a wonderful success and carried out beautifully by Chancellor Angela Merkel. Thank you. So, you know, regardless of how you look at the outcomes, and different sides look at it differently, he's being very gracious to a host who has been on different sides of different issues, but said, hey, you hosted a nice summit, got a lot of things done.
Yeah, and they talked about a lot. You think about the meetings that took place, right? One with Vladimir Putin, everyone was waiting for that. They ended up getting a ceasefire in Syria, which was a huge deal. They talked about the meddling in Russia in our elections. Also, the meeting with the president of China, Xi Jinping.
Crucial.
North Korea and trade. I mean, you think about the things that were talked about. You hope that that all leads to real action from these leaders, because we need Vladimir Putin. We need Xi Jinping. So far, they have not proven they can really step up to the plate. Will it be different after some of these meetings? You hope that that happens.
And there's accusations, why did the meeting with Putin go longer than 30 minutes? Well, because look at the stuff we had to do. I mean, that stuff can't get accomplished in 30 minutes. Sure. There's a reason it went 2 hours and 16 minutes.
If it went 30 minutes, I would have said, oh, they couldn't have met for longer.
Right.
Of course.
You can't win.
Of can't win for losing. On that graphic, there was a mention of the G19, the so-called group minus America that is still wedded to the Paris Climate Accord. And what I said it before the show, I said, if there's a G19, you know what that means? There's a G1. And the G1 is the United States of America, and that's the only person that President Trump represents. See, the left is going to, you're seeing some headlines saying the U.S. was left out, we were pushed to the side, we aren't leading anymore. And it depends on how you measure success. Is success international consensus without respect to national interest, or is it what benefits the United States the most? You know, the post-World War II order was forged by the West after winning World War II on security, on economics, on trade, and it benefited us. But there's a point at which that world order works against us. When other countries are freeloading, on like NATO, unfair trade practices of dumping, wrong priorities on things like climate, open borders, that when well, bring new threats. So the President Trump saying, hey, we recognize this world order. It has benefited us in many ways, but we don't want our sovereignty undermined and our security threatened because of it. And we're not going to focus on things like climate change that aren't as important as, say, defeating ISIS.
Well, and we hear that. The three of us go out on the country and go to these diners, and I hear all the time that's one of the main reasons they voted for President Trump, because they wanted to get back to America first. They wanted to get back to this idea that we fight for ourselves, and that was
they wanted G1.
Yeah, they wanted
G1.
But I think that was a big part of this trip was honing in on America first, but also to our allies, showing you can still have America first, but talk about the importance, like when he was in Poland, talking about the importance of our allies and working together on the world stage.
But nevertheless, despite this G19 moniker, the official statement from the summit did say it echoed Trump's fairness view. It really did talk about, hey, we need to make trade fair for everybody. And so it kind of signed on to that. So I know we always want G1. That's what we want. But the fact that don't make this out to be like, oh, we walk away and we got nothing. No, we put our foot down. We're going to get free trade. It's going to happen. However, not everybody sees it that way. Of course, liberals see outrage at every corner.
Well, they're looking for the small things to make an issue of as opposed to the substance of it. And they're very good at that. This is what the fake news media loves to do all the time. Like this picture right here that was sent out by apparently a member of the Russian delegation and then deleted because there weren't supposed to be no photos inside this session. It's a photo of Ivanka Trump seated at a table alongside the president of China, the prime minister of the UK, Erdogan of Turkey, as part of the regular meetings that are happening. But if you listen to the left, it's a massive conflict.
Yeah, look, it's a very fluid situation, these meetings, because you're in and out, you're meeting one-on-one with leaders, you're sitting down at these tables. So here are just some of the tweets that came out when people realized that it was Ivanka Trump that was sitting in place of the president. This is from Charles Blow for the New York Times, says, why the hell is Ivanka Trump sitting in for daddy at G20 meetings? What are her qualifications? Who voted for her? This is from historian Ann Applebaum, who says, because an unelected, unqualified, unprepared New York socialite is the best person to represent America national interests.
Oh, thanks for
that. And it keeps going.
Yeah, women's rights activist Amy Siskin says this kind of thing happens all the time. I don't even want to read it. In dictatorships.
But what was the topic in this meeting that Ivanka Trump was sitting in on? Well, it was women's issues. It was women's entrepreneurship in the global sphere.
Details are also, in addition to that, Todd, a pesky thing. So the President Trump, why did he leave that particular meeting? To go meet with the premier, or the prime minister of Indonesia, the most Muslim-populated country in the world. Imagine if he had skipped his bilateral with the largest Muslim country in the world. It would have been President Trump shuns Muslim world for not holding the... No, he had a meeting. He went to the meeting. Someone sat in. This has happened with other administrations at meetings globally. Hillary Clinton did it for her husband. He gets to choose who sits at the table on his behalf. He made a choice, but the press is going nuts.
Yeah, but you talk about her qualifications. I mean, this is someone who is very qualified. You look on her own right, someone who very well educated, who started a business of her own, who has really grown up in these types of environments, being around the table, whether it's these business meetings with her dad or now on the political stage. If I were Ivanka Trump, as she's doing, I say own that. You know, when she had that interview actually with Ainsley here on the show, and she said, I try to stay out of politics, I was thinking, I think she meant I hate the politics of it, which a lot of us do. But I think what she should do is say, I am involved in this. I am a key advisor, and I do want to be part of the policy. And I think that's exactly what she's doing. So own it, because you're going to be criticized no matter what you do.
Absolutely.
She's in an incredibly important position.
Well,
so
tweets were
keep
offensive.
Doing it.
Well, they're ridiculous.
Those tweets were extreme. I mean, where did she go to college, Abby?
She actually went to college where I went.
That's right. Interesting.
Yeah.
University of Pennsylvania.
So I'm not qualified at all to be sitting on this couch.
No, never. Nope. But speaking of sticking out a little bit is another photo that came out that people have been pointing to. Take a look at this photo. You can't see it from this vantage point, but almost everyone there is wearing a pin. In fact, 19 people are wearing a pin, or plus spouses, that depicts the G20 summit, except for our president. Our president is wearing the red, white, and blue, our flag, on his lapel instead. A lot of people pointing out the fact that, hey, he's not there to represent the G20. He's there to represent the U.S.
And there's outrage. People are angry that he's representing the U.S. He's the president. This guy is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Yeah. There's a real disconnect in this country between people that are really wanting America first and those that want us to be, you know, more like the rest of the world.
Well, yeah,
you look at what's happening in places like Europe, and you think, isn't there a reason why we are doubling down on our safety and things that we need to change in this country?
And so goes America, so goes the world. I mean, it is leadership to cut against the grain. If you just go with the flow, with what the world's doing, say everyone's doing it, we're going to do it. That's not leadership. That's followership. So if you stand up and say, no, these are our best interests, we think the West is fading in ways that it shouldn't in the face of new threats, we're going to stand up to. That is the definition of leadership. And I think a lot of capitals around the world are noticing that this president will stand up. Barack Obama wore a lapel pin at the G20, a U.S. one, actually, a couple of years ago. So it's been pointed out.
But I bet the Democrats didn't criticize him then.
No way they didn't criticize him. And did he do it to make a statement? Probably not. But President Trump, in this case, said, no, I'm going to make a statement. And I think this is exactly what the folks who voted for him hoped he would do. He would represent the citizens of the U.S., not citizens of the world.
Look, when you come home from these trips, whether it was his first international trip or this one, you come home and you say, did we accomplish what we wanted? Do we have productive meetings with the most important leaders around the world that we need to work with? Yes. Did we represent the country in a positive way on the world stage? Yes. So you know what? The White House should be happy this morning. The American people should be proud. They are putting the country first.
Yep. Agreed. I like it.
All right. We do have some other headlines I want to bring you this morning, starting with this one. Everyone's been talking about this. The mayor of New York City praising cops in Germany, where he jetted to protest at the G20 summit, while officers back here at home grieve one of their own without him. Bill de Blasio saying, quote, our right to protest is directly related to the fact that our police protect us. So help me by joining in applause and thanks for the police. Hamburg police feeling anything but love. More than 200 cops have been injured by violent protesters there. A third night of protests happening despite all the leaders already being gone. And Hawaii taking another swing at the president's travel ban. State lawyers now asking a federal judge to narrow the scope of the ban despite already getting rejected on a request to clarify the Supreme Court's ruling. The partially reinstated ban restricts travel from 6 Middle East countries for 90 days, with some exceptions for family members of U.S. citizens. And President Trump could soon deliver on another campaign promise to refill Guantanamo Bay with terrorists. Attorney General Jeff Sessions and Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein recently visited the prison. Sessions said earlier this year he sees no legal reasons not to send new terror suspects. Former President Obama promised Americans he'd close down that prison during his tenure, but failed to do so.
Now that is some great news.
And 2 congressmen are now fighting to make Charlie Gard's family U.S. citizens in order to save that little boy's life. Republicans Brad Wenstrup of Ohio and Trent Franks of Arizona are introducing a bill to grant them residency so the terminally ill baby can receive life-saving treatment. Of course, this comes as officials in Britain say they have new evidence about treatment options in the U.S. and in Rome after previously ruling Charlie's extremely rare genetic condition untreatable, and he should be taken off life support. We'll see where this one goes.
Something moves quickly on that.
Absolutely.
Heartbreaking.
All right. Well, could it be remembered as the G19 summit? All world leaders recommitting to the Paris climate deal, except for President Trump and the United States of America. Is he making the right move? Our next guest says yes.
Plus, the latest debate taking place on Capitol Hill. It's not about laws. It's about the dress code.
And this story was such a huge hit yesterday, we had to bring it back. This morning, you will meet the Navy vet behind the genius sales pitch that is going viral online. Buy a roof, get a gun.
I almost wore that today.
Oh, boy.
It's close, yeah.
It's a good thing you didn't.
It could end up being remembered as the G20-1 summit after 19 world leaders reaffirmed their commitment to the Paris Climate Accord, except for our president.
Like other world leaders here, I'm dismayed at the US decision to pull out of the Paris Agreement, and I've urged President Trump to rejoin the Paris Agreement.
But he did not. The president holding firm, saying he won't let our country be taken advantage of anymore. So is going it alone a mistake? Or is the president showing real leadership? Founder of the Center for Industrial Progress and author of the Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, Alex Epstein. Alex, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So the president has said that this Paris deal is one-sided and hurts America. Is he right to stand up as a G1 against G19 as he did?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes in the world, there are very destructive fads that many world leaders accept. In the 20th century, we had socialism. Today, I think we have climate catastrophism, which sacrifices billions of people's access to affordable energy to this ideal of some perfect, mythical, unchanged climate. And I think Trump had a moral obligation to stand up both for Americans, but also for 3 billion energy-poor people throughout the world.
So if you listen to leaders of other countries, they say America's being left behind. We're on the sidelines. Would you call it that, or would you say President Trump is showing leadership by sticking out from the crowd?
Well, it's called the Paris Climate Accord, which is pretty vague. I think it should be called the Paris Poverty Plan, because all it really does is it makes energy more expensive. Instead of liberating every source of energy, including fossil fuels, including nuclear power. You have people who are making energy more expensive by taxing fossil fuels and who hypocritically oppose nuclear power and fracking, which are the two big ways of reducing CO2 emissions.
Then, Alex, why do they like this accord so much?
Well, if you look throughout history, a lot of movements like control over the individual. In the 20th century, it was collectivism, particularly socialism. And today, there's this idea that human beings left free are going to ruin the planet. So a lot of people like the idea that their power is somehow necessary for the planet and for humanity.
Absolutely. You wrote the book called The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. What is the moral case for those?
The moral case is that if we really care about human flourishing, if that's our goal, not untouched nature, but human flourishing, we need to use more fossil fuels and not less, not because fossil fuels are perfect, but because the positives far outweigh the negatives and the risks of not using them are catastrophic.
So it's similar to the argument for capitalism, that it has raised more people out of poverty than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think capitalism as a system enables amazing things like fossil fuels and other forms of prosperity. But in general, you have this tendency to only look at the negatives of things that people don't like fossil fuels, and then to only look at the positives of things they do like solar and wind, which are called renewables, but which should be called unreliables.
Great point. Well, Alex Epstein, thanks for your expertise. You got up very early for us in San Francisco. It sounds like you're in for the G1 as it pertains to the Paris Climate Accord.
Absolutely.
As well. You got it, Alex. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right. President Trump and First Lady Melania both topping a new Fox favorability poll, while Democratic leaders struggle to stay afloat. Is it time for Dems to end the collusion resistance narrative? We'll debate that next. Plus, open borders George Clooney, he wants a fence. Why, George? Why can't we all just be free, together, borderless?
Some quick headlines and a Fox News alert. ISIS on the verge of being completely pushed out of Mosul. The Iraqi military says victory over the terror army is, quote, imminent. Despite heavy losses, ISIS vowing to fight to the death in a city it has held since 2014. And a ceasefire in the Syrian civil war beginning just over an hour ago. President Trump brokering the deal with Vladimir Putin. The Pentagon touting the deal as a major step forward for both countries in the effort to destroy ISIS. Abby, over to you.
Thank you, Todd. All right, First Lady Melania Trump making a big impression at the G20 summit, and here at home, a Fox News poll showing the First Lady and President Trump with rising favorability ratings. But top Democrats missing the mark among Americans. So is the Democrats' resistance strategy really working? Joining me now is the Blaze's Lawrence Jones and radio talk show host Jamila Bey. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Abby.
All right, so Lawrence, you've been saying for a while, you've been warning Democrats that if you continue to resist, this is going to be the outcome.
Well, I keep telling the Democrats that you're literally starting the campaign for Donald Trump's reelection with the resistance. It's one thing to disagree on policy, but to say no, no, no to everything, and to continue to say that he's insane, to continue to say that he's a double agent for Russia, that's not going to accomplish anything. I mean, we have the New York mayor going to Germany to be a part of resistance overseas when you have an officer that had just passed away. The Democrats need to main focus and regain their focus on a message and what they are for.
Right. And Jamila, it's one thing if you are resist, and you're still winning elections. But Democrats have lost the last 4 elections in a row. So at what point do you wake up and say, maybe we need to start focusing on our own agenda, what we stand for?
Well, I think that's what is happening now, to be honest. You know, we have to be very careful right now to go ahead and tick the W win box for this G20 summit. Perception carries a multitude, and the fact that the world is watching what's going on right now, the world got to see Donald Trump's little girl, Ivanka, sitting in for her daddy at the big table.
That's not fair.
That is absolutely fair.
That's ridiculous.
The world got to see world leaders talking around Donald Trump, not talking with him.
Jamila?
The world got to see Donald Trump not mention one point
Jamila, though, is that
North
the way?
Korea's
Is that the way?
an
Jamila, let me just jump in here. Let me just jump in here. Is this the way that women should be talking about other women that are certainly qualified? What she was talking about was women entrepreneurship. It was just for a brief moment when her father stepped away. And just to remind you, several places are reporting that Hillary Clinton sat in for her husband at one point in time at the G20 summit. Just to be fair.
Absolutely. Hillary Clinton.
And she has the experience to do so.
Hillary Clinton had the credentials, was a practicing attorney, really had the same
credentials, though, just like Ivanka.
She was the first lady who had advanced degrees, who was a practicing attorney, who had legislative experience herself.
Ivanka doesn't have a successful
business.
Right,
Lawrence, go ahead.
Ivanka has had no legislative experience.
All right, Lawrence. Hey, Lawrence, go ahead. Lawrence,
the important thing here: why was North Korea not mentioned?
Jamila, let's finish this topic. Let's finish this topic on Ivanka. Lawrence, go ahead.
Okay.
My issue is this. Ivanka is a successful businesswoman, and we're seeing the left attack her because she's a conservative woman. And I might note, the left could have a real opportunity to work with Ivanka because she's actually a little bit liberal on social issues. And they can take that opportunity, but instead they choose to discredit her like she's doing right now in this program and say she doesn't have an advanced degree or she's not credible to have these business discussions when she has a multi-million-dollar business. We would think that's what we want our young girls to see.
Jamila, the point of this whole debate too. Jamila, the point of this whole debate was these poll numbers, right? And where these parties stand. And you look at the party leaders, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. Why is it that they are down in the 20s at this point?
I think there are a number of reasons. I think a lot of people on the left, which I research and report on, are tired of the status quo leadership. I think there are issues with Nancy Pelosi that the left is not able to capitalize on what are her strengths. I think that's to be seen after losing an election. Who is you guys? Forgive me.
Democrats. What is the Democrats' message? Because you guys don't have one right now. It's just resist.
Well, when you say you guys talking about Democrats talking about me, that's completely, I'm a journalist. I'm not carrying water for the Democratic Party. I report on the Democratic Party. So you guys threw me. Forgive me. The issue right now is that both parties, but we'll talk about the Democrats. The Democrats had this massive loss that many of them did not see coming. The Democrats.
So what are you guys going to do?
You guys, again, please.
So what do the Democrats need to do?
What the Democrats need to do? They have no bench right now, and that's a huge problem. The fact that you had the million women with their little pink hats on marching in Washington, D.C., and you have record numbers of women going to trainings to run for office and get on boards and be more politically active, that shows some interest in, taking these social issues and building around them. The point here,
Abby,
however, that I want to get back to...
I'll let Jamila say the last thing, and then I'll let you jump in.
This point that we need to make clear is that the world is looking at what is clearly nepotism. If Chelsea Clinton, with her Ivy League degree, sat at the big table when her daddy was in a meeting, you'd have heard much worse than you're hearing now. The world is looking at this, and this is not a good look.
All right, Lawrence.
Ivanka is a great businesswoman because her daddy could help her with his wealth to get into the, into her accessories business.
Abby, I think it's clear. I just asked 3 times, what is the Democrats' message? And I think this shows you right now. Nobody knows the message. They rather talk about Donald Trump and his family and Russia, and somehow Ivanka shouldn't have a seat at the table when she's advisor to the president. They have no message. They don't know what to do in the next election. They rather resist. And as I said before, to begin this segment, Donald Trump will be reelected if they continue this narrative. You have to tell the American people what you are for, not just what you're against.
Yeah, you know what? Let's throw it out to the American people. What do you think about this debate? What do you think Democrats need to do? Send us your email. At friends@foxnews.com. Jamila, Lawrence Jones, great to have you both with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abby.
The debate will continue. Coming up, he is the ex-Gitmo detainee who admitted to killing an American soldier. And this morning, Canada's Prime Minister is defending the move to pay him millions. And she just cannot stay away. Hillary Clinton itching for a leading role in the midterm elections. We've got more on that coming up. This is your shot of the morning. President Trump rescuing a Marine pad blown off of his head while boarding Marine One. The president putting it back just as the wind blew it right off there, as you can see. But the president persisted and went after it again before boarding. I love those moments because they're so real.
Yeah, and it's cool. It shows a real respect for that Marine. I mean, we know this from the president and how he talks about our military and vets. But those small interactions are very revealing.
But it also shows a realness of the president, as well, that he is not just some figurehead. He's out there for the American people, whether you're a service member or you're just one of us.
You can't control the wind.
No, you can't.
Even if you're president of the United States.
And if you're that Marine and your hat flies off and the president's coming toward you,
you're dying, right?
You're freaking out. Because I know those guys are like, what do I do? What do I do?
But he'll watch that video for the rest of